By the time the plane dipped towards Vietnam, Jackson already felt like the weekend had begun weeks ago. SEASAC did that to him. It lived in the background of the season from the first practice in October, even though Season 2 was the shortest and strangest stretch of the year. 7 weeks. A 3-week Christmas break cutting straight through the middle. Practices that felt disjointed, games that came too fast, then not at all. Momentum that had to be rebuilt more than once. And yet somehow, here they were. 9 wins, 4 losses. Not dominant, not fragile either. Ready. If readiness was measured by how much you'd already been tested. The Dragons landed knowing this tournament would ask everything of them. 3 games on Friday, quarterfinals and semifinals on Saturday, final games on Sunday. A weekend that didn't wait for anyone to catch their breath. For 4 of the boys, it was the last time they'd ever pull on a Dragons jersey. Grade 12s who had been there before Jackson arrived, who had made space for him without making a big deal of it. They were the ones who talked during warm-ups, who stayed steady when games tilted, who knew when to say something and when to let silence do the work. Jackson felt that weight too. Not as pressure, but as meaning. This mattered. Everyone knew their pool was brutal. Haro from Thailand, NIST, last year's silver medalists, SSIS, the host school, bronze medalist last year and stacked with seniors. Each team had only lost 1 key player from the previous season. Haro and SSIS both had national team players. SSIS had home court, home crowd, and confidence that bordered on calm inevitability. There were no soft openings here. The Dragons started with Haro. From the opening tip, something was different. Not loud, not frantic, just sharp. The defensive specialists were locked in, face guarding Haro's national player from the first possession. No easy catches, no rhythm. Every cut felt crowded. Every dribble felt watched. Jackson felt it click early, not because he was scoring, but because the team was connected. Rotations were on time, closeouts were controlled, communication was constant. They didn't blow Haro away, they wore them down, possession by possession. The Dragons pulled ahead, the gap widened slowly, deliberately. By the final buzzer, it was a 19-point win. A statement, not to the tournament, to themselves. The second game came fast. NIST. Silver medalists, physical, smart, unafraid. This one felt heavier. Every basket mattered. Every mistake cost something. Jackson found his rhythm offensively, attacking gaps, hitting shots, doing what he could to keep the Dragons close. It was one of his highest scoring games of the tournament. But basketball had a way of being unfair like that. Good nights that didn't turn into wins. They fought, they traded leads, they came up just short. A 5-point loss. The third game of the day was against SSIS. By then, legs were tired, voices were hoarse, the gym felt smaller, louder, more intense. SSIS had already beaten Haro and NIST comfortably by 19 and 24 points. No one expected this to be close. But defense travels. The game slowed to a grind. Every basket felt earned. Jackson noticed how quiet the moments between whistles felt, like both teams were holding their breath. The Dragons stayed within reach, but shots that usually fell didn't. A bounce here, a rim out there. They lost by 7. When the pool standing settled, SSIS stood alone at the top, undefeated. Behind them, a 3-way tie. And the tiebreakers fell the wrong way. 4th, which meant Saturday morning they'd face the top team from the other pool, AIS. Saturday felt different the moment Jackson woke up. Calmer. He ate breakfast without forcing it, tugged his ankle brace methodically, listened to music that didn't hype him up, just steadied him. AIS was big, disciplined, efficient, the kind of team that punished mistakes quietly. But the Dragons weren't intimidated. From the opening minutes, the intensity was there. Not frantic, intentional. They rebounded as a unit, dove for loose balls, boxed out like every possession might decide the game. Jackson felt the game slow down for him. Shots came from rhythm, not urgency. Late in the second quarter, the ball swung to him near the perimeter. As the buzzer approached, he rose without thinking. The shot dropped. 3 points, halftime lead. In the second half, the Dragons leaned into defense again, making AIS work for everything. The gap grew, not quickly, but steadily. When the final buzzer sounded, it was a 13-point win, the biggest of the tournament. David had beaten Goliath. In a strange twist of fate, every quarterfinal winner came from their pool, proof of what they'd already felt, that this had been the strongest group. And there was pride in that. And exhaustion. 3 hours later, they faced Harrow again. The same team they'd beaten by 19. Jackson felt it during warm-ups. Something was off. Not fear, not doubt, just flatness. They jumped out to a 10-point lead in the second quarter, and for a moment it looked like the earlier script might repeat. But Harrow didn't fold this time. They chipped away, took advantage of small lapses, won tiny battles that added up. By halftime, the lead was gone. The second half became a back-and-forth test of nerve. Jackson felt ready. He knew he was, but the collective edge wasn't quite there. Rotations were half a step slow. Rebounds slipped through hands. Still, they fought. A free throw tied the game. Overtime. But Harrow struck first. Then again. The Dragons chased, but the gap held. A 3-point loss. Jackson had his best scoring game of the tournament, but it didn't matter. Basketball was cruel like that too. Sometimes effort and execution weren't enough if timing wasn't on your side. The gymnasium afterward was silent. They had just lost to a team they'd beaten comfortably a day earlier, and just hours after their biggest win. The swing was brutal. Jackson sat at the end of the bench, shoulders shaking before he could stop it. When his coach, his dad, reached him and lifted him off the bench, there were no words at first, just a hug that held, and kept holding, long enough for the wave to pass. Somewhere behind them, a couple of cameras clicked, but neither of them noticed. For those minutes, the noise of the tournament disappeared, and it was just a father and a son letting the loss land. Saturday night, the gala dinner helped. Music, food, laughter that felt forced at first, then slowly real. The boys sat together, shoulders touching, stories flowing more easily as the night went on. Loss didn't disappear, but it softened. They still had one more game. Sunday, the bronze medal match came too soon. Missed again. Jackson started hot. A couple of early threes fell. For a moment it felt like momentum might finally choose them. But tournaments leave their mark. Legs were heavy, minds were slower. The effort was there, but the spark was harder to find. Coaches tried different combinations, different approaches, short rests, long talks, encouragement that asked the boys to reach for something deeper. They got within 5 points with 5 minutes left. That was as close as it came. 4th place, no medal. Just the knowledge of how close they'd been. On paper it was 4th. In truth, it was more complicated. They had beaten the top team from the other pool, lost close games to the host and the silver medalists, played every opponent to the final whistle. After finishing 7th the year before, 4th felt like progress, even if it didn't feel satisfying yet. The grade 12s stood together at the end, arms around shoulders, eyes wet but steady. They had given everything they had left in Dragon's Green. Jackson watched them, knowing he'd carry pieces of them forward. There would be time to rest now. A few quiet days, then off-season work. Strength, skill, growth. The season was over, but the work wasn't. And neither was the belief, earned over 3 days in Vietnam, that when this team showed up together, they belonged with anyone.